aware of is at the last council meeting, the ordinance 2296 was revised, and it was revised to basically take all expenditure approval authority away from the board and move Gardner Energy under the city's new purchasing policies and procedures. That took place, well, at the last council meeting, which I guess was on the 3rd. As a result now, it's going to make it a little more difficult for the utility to operate because the approval levels that Gardner Energy had have been reduced to comply with the rest of the city. So at this point in time, the director has, I have $10,000 of approval level to purchase equipment, materials as required to operate and maintain and construct the system. It's going to make it more difficult to buy. We have a lot of large ticket items, and that's why the purchasing policy that the board put in place back when it was formed gave me a level that would allow me to purchase like a large three-phase pad-mount transformer, things like that. So things are going to be a little bit different, and it's going to cause Gardner Energy staff a little more work, and it's going to delay the purchase of some items.
Our large feeder cables, our rolls of wire run $20,000–$30,000 on one roll, so I mean it's definitely going to hurt us.
Were you, or you, Brandon, or anybody in the board, was anybody contacted to find out if this would impact us?
No. No, we were not involved in drafting up the city new purchasing policy or changing the ordinance to move Gardner Energy under the new purchasing policy.
Well, and from what I can gather from the council meetings, even the numbers that they're set to now aren't what the finance director presented, that are more in line with the other cities in Johnson County, because some council members thought they were too high. So, from what I can tell, there's no basis of empirical data being used. It's just a feeling of what's appropriate. So, I mean, you got a comparison of all these other cities which don't have utilities. Then you have the board here that could answer questions and specify why we had those levels and provide, spreadsheets as to what all of our, well, I guess the finance director could provide what all our expenses are. But it doesn't sound like any of that's being considered. It's just the opinion of, well, I think that's too much. So I'm disappointed in the council that they aren't using data they have provided to make a decision that's now going to, bind, well, not our hands, because we don't have anything to do with it anymore, your hands. I'm disappointed.
Well, it's going to be interesting, I guess, because after $10,000, between $10,000 and $25,000, the next level of approval is the city administrator. But I don't report to the city administrator, but she's still going to approve those expenditures. And then above $25,000, it will go to the council.
So now, not only, since you report to the board isn't making the decision, but yet you're going to report to a city admin that isn't looped in on all the other issues here because you're reporting to us. Seems like now, not only do you have, it's almost a conflict of interest because you don't know what's really going on, what's the board thinking here, why is the city admin approving that or not approving that. There's a complete disconnect. Somehow that needs to be resolved. I assume that's going to be done through a BPU, but until then, that's going to be a pain and a messy.
I would suggest that the city admin attend this meeting.
Well, and are you now going to be sitting up in the director's chairs for city council?
I've not been asked to do that.
I can't understand why you wouldn't if you have to explain expenses, because you explain them to us, but...
I have been explaining the expenses as the council asked me. I mean, I sit in the audience, and if there's any questions about expenses, then they ask me to step to the podium and answer any questions that they might have. So that's the way we've been handling it up to now.
Well, I mean, that's good that you're there, but I think that's almost disrespectful to have you in the audience and not up here with every other director that's getting that position. I mean, you earned it.
I think we ought to talk about strategies moving forward, and that would probably involve Bill sitting up here as you were speaking of.
Well, it's been brought up before.
Oh, I understand, but I'm just saying, I think as a board, we should try to pull together strategies to support Bill and enable him to work within the new parameters that have been given to us through council. And again, you know, I think part of that, and I think I've said this before, is to get him to sit up here during council meetings so that he's readily available and can be looped in on agenda items and be prepared to speak to, you know, whatever the questions they may have of him. I think as a board, we need to support Bill by pulling together a strategy to help him operate in this new arena. No matter if we like it or we love it, I don't think that matters anymore. I think we need to support Bill and get a strategy together to support him. What do you think, Lance?
As you're talking about developing strategy, I'm trying to figure out what strategy you have in mind. So, I think you have the parameters of what is required. I don't know that there's any strategy that...
Yeah, I'm wondering where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Well, where I'm going with it is that we now know the new rules of the game, so how do we need to support Bill? Maybe strategy was the wrong word. Tactically, how do we need to support Bill to be able to play within the confines of those new policies and obligations that those policies have given us? That's, I guess, where I'm going.
Sounds like there's not a lot of authority by the board to help him. I mean, it's not like we can help him by approving the expense, and if he's looping us in on it, then he's just gonna have to do double duty to explain every expense twice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how we can help as long as he has to go through a third party, actually two third parties, to do anything, because it's not like we're on, you know, sitting up there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind explaining certain expenditures to the board and to the council. That's not that big of a deal for me. I guess what I'd like to know from the board, since your authority for approving expenditures no longer exists, would it still help you to know about certain expenditures? I mean, they're all going to be tied to projects, probably.
I think one of the issues that we have is electric's probably the only division in the city that actually does construction. The water department, everything's put in by the contractor, that's all handled by the developer. Electric is ordering transformers, ordering wire, we're putting infrastructure in. The water department, that's not how they operate. They're not ordering water lines and all that stuff and putting that infrastructure in. That's all put in by a contractor and developer. Let's just use, let's say Marvin's Toe down there. It's a new business coming into Gardner. Transformer for that project, let's say, runs $12,000. We get the plans on our desk. Once they pay us for that infrastructure, we have to order the transformer, all that stuff. I don't know how the city council's approval process works as far as how far out you have to have stuff on their agenda to get that approved. Transformers are 6 to 8 weeks out, so if we have a 6-week lead time to get stuff on the city council's agenda, now we're looking 12 to 14 weeks out before we can even get a transformer ordered and get it here by the time we go through their approval process and the lead time for that transformer for a project that's wanting to come into the city of Gardner. So if we don't have that transformer in stock, which, you know, odds are that we probably do, but there are those instances where we don't have a larger transformer. You know, it's just, I guess it's going to put us out a little farther on getting some projects taken care of. We're going to have some communication from the city of Gardner and let us know a little bit ahead of time on some of